If you are thinking about buying yourself a fire eel, then keep watching this video because I've had mine for about 6 months now, and I'm going to tell you everything that I know when it comes to looking after fire eels. And yeah, let's just get started. Now, like I mentioned, I've had my fire eel for about 6 months now, and they are absolutely amazing, man. The colours are incredible. They've got this blue body with these bright orange stripes. They are also very active and they have incredible personalities. Whenever I walk into my room, my fire eel pops her head out straight away and greets me, probably because I'm the one who gives her the food, of course. But yeah, in general, the fire eels are really cool. They've got some great personalities and they look amazing in an aquarium, especially in a planted aquarium. I just realized my canister filter is making so much noise. Let me turn it down quick. Alright, that's better. Now, the first segment of this care guide is going to be about the aquarium setup. And of course, the first thing that we need to know is what size aquarium do you need? And that's where it gets kind of interesting because fire eels, they do get really big. However, they don't grow as fast as you might think. I mean, in the 6 months that I've had my fire eel, she hasn't actually grown that much. I mean, she's grown a little bit, but at the rate that she has been growing, it's gonna take a while before she needs a very big aquarium. So when it comes to the question, what size aquarium do you need? It really depends on what your plans are. You see, generally there are two types of people. There are the ones who want to keep the eel for its entire life. Usually they have a massive aquarium and they have the space to do so. However, if you don't have that big aquarium, then you'll probably fall into that second category, which is buy the eel while it's a baby, keep it for as long as you can, and then when it gets too big, either sell it on or donate it to a fish store. And yeah, I'm in that second category. I mean, I do want to have a massive aquarium one day. However, I'm not really sure how long that's going to take. So I am prepared that if the day comes where the fire eel gets too big, I may have to return it. So yeah, I was waffling for a while, but the point is, it really depends on your plan. If you are planning to keep the eel for its entire life, a full grown fire eel will need an aquarium that's about 400 litres minimum. That is 105 US gallons. But the thing is, people, majority of the time you are going to buy a baby, and the babies are quite small. Now, I have mine in my 200 litre and I am planning to move her to the 240 litre, and I'm pretty confident I'll be able to keep her for at least 2 to 3 years before I need to give her away. So yeah, I would say for a baby, have a minimum size of a 200 litre tank and just have a backup plan. Either try to sell it on when it gets too big, or start saving up for a bigger aquarium, minimum 400 litres, or just find yourself a fish store or go to the local fish store that you always visit and see if you can donate it there. Maybe even get some store credit. Now, one really important thing about the aquarium is you do want to make sure that it has a lid. They are eels and eels are known to be escape artists. So on top of that, any small gaps that you have, you want to make sure that you block them all off. For example, in the Fluval Roma 200, the little cable holes at the back, I put some sponges in there to make sure the eel can't escape through that way, and I also have a hole at the top of the aquarium where the canister filter tubes go in, and I've also blocked off the gaps in there with some sponges again. You can get a cheap replacement sponge from Amazon and you can just cut them to the size that you need. So yeah, just make sure that your aquarium has a tight fitting lid and that you've blocked off any holes. Now, when it comes to the hardscape, you do want a bit of hardscape in there, especially when they're babies, because they do like to have some hiding spaces. Now, you can either go the natural route and get some rocks and put them on top of each other and create some holes that way, or you can get yourself a fake cave. Some people even like to put in pipes and that, but me personally, I don't like pipes because it looks really unnatural. So if you are going to go for a fake cave, I'd say try go for a natural looking fake cave. Now, if you really want to put a pipe inside, because they are apparently one of the best for the eels, but you don't want to take away the natural look of your aquarium, then you can kind of hide it amongst some rocks. I actually made a video where I hid some other fake caves in my natural aquarium. I'll put it up here somewhere if you want to see it, but you can watch that and get some inspiration. But yeah, you can kind of use rocks to hide some fake stuff, and I would highly recommend that because yeah, just having a pipe in the aquarium doesn't really look natural. And yeah, anyway, have some hardscape in there. You can also have some wood that creates a little gap underneath. The eel will feel really comfortable and be able to hide in there. And the main thing you want to do with your hardscape is create as many hiding places as you can. Now, of course, you are going to have to adjust that as the eel grows bigger. When it does grow bigger, you probably are going to want to get a pipe and use some rocks to hide that. But yeah, yeah, whilst they're babies, you can get away with a few more natural solutions. Now, plants are optional. If you are going to add plants, I would highly recommend adding the plants first before adding in the eel, because once again, the eel is very active, and if you have fresh plants, it will definitely uproot those plants. Now, in my planted aquarium, all the plants are very strongly rooted in there, so the eel hasn't uprooted any of them. And yo, I have to say, it looks absolutely amazing. Like, it just looks so cool. The contrast between the blue and the orange and the green, it looks really nice, and the eel really seems to enjoy the plants. So once again, plants are not needed, but I would definitely recommend putting some in there. Now, the last thing we'll quickly touch on is the temperature, and all of my aquariums are at 26 degrees Celsius, which includes my 200 litre, and my Fire Eel has been completely happy the whole time I've had her. Now, there are a few optional upgrades you can do to your aquarium if you have a really old aquarium and an old light. For example, upgrading to something like a Fluval Aquasky 2.0, which has a schedule that has sunrises and sunsets. It's really cool, and it helps the fish get comfortable much more quickly by having a light that replicates a day cycle compared to something like a static light that just switches on and off. I made a whole video on the Fluval Aquasky 2.0. If you want to see that, I'll put it up here somewhere. But yeah, something optional to think about. Also, keep in mind when you first get your Fire Eel, it can get really nervous because, you know, moving from the shop to your aquarium can be a stressful experience. So having a light that you can physically control with your phone, and you can turn the light down, and that will be really helpful in trying to get that eel to eat, because naturally it will be much more comfortable in a dark environment. Now, once you've sorted all of that out, your aquarium will now be ready for a Fire Eel. Now, here's the important thing, people. When you get to the fish store, make sure you ask them, what is that eel feeding? Now, they shouldn't be too hard to feed. They really love bloodworms, but just in case, because once again, like I said, when you first get them, they can be really nervous, and just knowing what they usually eat will be a great starting point to try and get them to eat. Because yeah, my eel did not eat for the first 4 days. However, I knew that she loved bloodworms because they showed me in the shop that she was eating the bloodworms. So I just kept trying until she finally started eating them. And once again, this is why the hardscape and having all these hiding spots and caves is so important, because the faster the eel gets comfortable, the faster it will start eating and start acting natural. Now, when it comes to the feeding, my Fire Eel loves bloodworms, like loves them. Like yo, as soon as I put bloodworms into the aquarium, the way my Fire Eel just shoots out, and oh, it's just so amazing to see. She becomes so active during feeding time when I put in bloodworms. Now, she also likes to eat prawns. Okay, I guess not like, she also eats prawns, so when I put in prawns into the aquarium, she will have a few pieces in that, but the thing she absolutely loves is bloodworms. And yeah, I was a little bit worried in regards to nutrition and that, but she seems to be doing fine, and she has a really healthy, thick body. So yeah, the bloodworms and the few pieces of shrimp she eats does seem to sustain her. And in case you're wondering, in regards to the dry food, she doesn't seem to touch any of it. Oh, I guess I should mention my feeding schedule. So twice a week I put in loads of bloodworms, about 4 to 5 cubes, and that feeds the entire aquarium. However, every day I also put in 1 cube of bloodworms, and I use a syringe. Wait, let me get my syringe. So I use this syringe. You can get loads of them for fairly cheap. You just defrost the bloodworms in a little cup. Got that little plastic cup that I always use, and you know, you just put the syringe in, get a few out, and then I kind of direct them towards the Fire Eel and squirt it in so that other fish don't try eat them all straight away. And yeah, that way I can make sure that the Fire Eel gets to eat some bloodworms every day. When it comes to shrimps, I put in shrimps in the aquarium about 3 times per week, and yeah, like I mentioned, she also gets a few pieces there. Now, in this next segment, I want to talk about tank mates, and once again, it gets a little bit tricky here, because when you look online, majority of the tank mates that they're going to talk about are tank mates that you would have with a full grown Fire Eel. However, as we all know, when you buy a Fire Eel, you are most likely going to buy a juvenile or a baby, and they are very small. And yeah, you don't want to put in a small baby Fire Eel in a massive 400 litre aquarium with other big fish, because they're just going to look at that little eel like a worm and swallow that up straight away. So when it comes to Fire Eels, a juvenile or a baby will be perfectly fine with many fish. Like, I'll briefly go through the fish that it's lived with in this aquarium. So in my Fluval Roma 200, I had my rainbow fish in there for a long time. I've moved them to the 240 now. I've got Congo tetras in there, I've got a rope fish in there, I've got African butterfly fish in there. At one point I had my moray eel in there, but she's also moved now. I've got corridoras in there, there. I've got a snakehead in there, and the snakehead is the Channa Andreo, just to be clear, because most snakeheads are quite aggressive, but the Channa Andreo is a fairly peaceful species. I've got hillstream loaches in there. I've got quite a few different fish in there, and they all seem to be perfectly fine with my fire eel. I will make a separate video specifically for the fire eel and tank mates where I go into a bit more detail, but here was a few examples that worked out. Now when it comes to the temperament, I can tell you guys right now, I have not seen any aggression at all when it comes to my fire eel. Now of course, if I put my fire eel in my Fluval Flex for example, it will probably eat up all of the cherry shrimps in that tank, so do keep that in mind. The fire eel will probably eat anything that can fit inside its mouth. But yeah, in regards of fish that are similar sized and all of that, there has been no aggression at all, so yeah, you should be fairly fine with most fish. Do keep in mind though, every animal is different, people. You can get a fire eel today that's a complete psycho and attacks everything in your tank, so just so you know, every animal is different. You never know what personality you have, but as far as I know, majority of the fire eels are very chill. Now when it comes to the lifespan, they can live to about 10 to 20 years, so definitely keep that in mind if you are buying a fire eel and you want to keep it for its entire life. They do live a very long time, and the adult size, by the way, is around 100 centimeters, so keep that in mind. Fire eels get absolutely huge, man. They are slow growers as far as I can see. In the 6 months I've had mine, she hasn't grown that much, but they do eventually get really big. Now this next part is about whether they are active or passive, and once again it's a bit interesting because like I mentioned before, during feeding the fire eel can get so active. However, there's also many points in the day when the fire eel just hides away and chills. There was even one time where I didn't see my fire eel for the entire day until it was feeding time. So yeah, how active they are literally is a bit of a 50-50. Sometimes you come into your fish room and your fire eel will come and greet you, and sometimes you'll come in and it'll be nowhere to be seen. Now in regards of are they beginner fish, I guess once again it's a bit of a 50-50 thing, just because of how big they get and because of their special dietary requirements. You know, they don't really eat the flake food and that. I would say they're not beginners, but more medium. So if you've had an aquarium for about a year or two, you should be completely fine. But if it's your very first aquarium, I would say maybe get used to just the whole process of, you know, cycling your aquarium and learning how to look after fish and that. Give yourself a few months and then go for that fire eel. And yeah, that is everything that I know about the fire eel, everything that I've learned in the past 6 months that I've had her. And like I mentioned, people, my fire eel is doing great. She seems to really enjoy the plants in the aquarium, and she's a great eater, always out, always greeting me, and I highly recommend them. And if you want to see the day I bought my fire eel, then click right here.